Hello everybody, this is Brian Baugh, creator of Wolf and Batsy. And we are enjoying a very gray, gloomy, rainy October day in Ohio. Very atmospheric and very inspiring for drawing. And today I am working on an original art commission featuring a rotted, decomposed zombie werewolf attacking a couple of cute girls out camping. This is an original art commission for a good client, a repeat customer, good guy. It's funny, whenever I get these kind of requests, they're always very, very vague and open-minded about the monster. Like, just make him look like whatever you want. That's cool. But, you know, the girl should look like this. And they always give me really specific, detailed descriptions or photo reference for what they think the damsels in distress should look like. So, you know, that's cool, whatever. It's fine. I aim to please. So I'm sort of working on this today. Boy, yesterday I just was not in the mood to record. Kind of having a weird week. A lot of stupid, bad luck things going on. And I just was not in any kind of mood to record a video yesterday, so I just jumped in and drew this part, inked it and everything, the main parts of the drawing. Maybe I'll do some more detail work on this today. What I'd rather work on today, though, is more of these blank variant sketch covers. I started this idea with Batsy. Not really sure how I'm going to finish it up, but I kind of like that pose. So I knocked it out in pencil while I was just thinking about it, and probably do a Wolf and Batsy together on this one. So hang in there with me and we'll see what happens. Okay, so at this point in working on this drawing, I stopped talking while recording, and I'm now recording this after the fact as a voiceover, watching it along with you. I thought in this case, for this video, instead of trying to come up with some generic topic to discuss, I thought it might be better if I just sort of talk you through what I'm doing as I go along here. Because, you know, when you do this stuff all the time and you're so used to it, you know, it's sometimes you forget that other people who don't draw for a living or do this kind of stuff all the time might not always be clear on exactly what it is you're up to and how you go about your process. So I thought this might be a good one to just talk about, you know, what I'm doing as I do it. So anyway, after penciling in Batsy in this cool pose, I got hit with this idea that it might be really cool to draw a big spider web behind her. This is not an original motif. It's been used on all kinds of illustrations. There's a lot of great pre-code horror comic book covers from the 1950s that use this concept of a big giant spider web that fills the whole cover. One of my favorites is this one particular cover for a pre-code horror comic series called Out of the Shadows, where there's a guy stuck in a giant spider web like this, and there's this huge, obese, green spider creature guy with a kind of goblin-looking face and a big fat belly, and he's green, and he's crawling through the web to come get the guy. I love that cover. That was one of the pre-code horror comic covers that I actually went out and collected, the original 50s issue. There's also a famous issue of Daredevil, the Marvel comic book series, from when Frank Miller was writing and drawing the series, where he has Daredevil sitting on his knees in the middle of a giant spider web, and Black Widow is climbing on his back as if she's just captured him. That's one of my favorite Marvel comic covers from when I was young. So it's a little bit of an homage to that too. So here you see me drawing all these X's all over the place. That's sort of a comic book artist code to myself. It just means that those areas need to be completely covered in black ink, so that when I'm inking this cover and I have to turn the drawing upside down or sideways to strategically get at certain areas without smearing the wet ink on my hand, I know exactly where to put solid blacks, and it's just so that when you get into a part of a drawing that has a lot of shapes like this, where if you turn it the wrong way it could be confusing to the eye, just tells me quickly where to put in solid black. So a funny thing happened when I was in the middle of shooting this video. I realized I was almost out of ink and I needed a fresh ink bottle. I don't know if you guys care about seeing this part of the process or not, but I figured, what the heck, I'll film it. Sometimes this happens in the middle of a drawing. Also, I ran into an issue here. You'll see where the brush feels a little funny. And I sort of tested it on my hand just to get a feel for it, and it was weird, so I got a brand new brush. Needed a nice fine point for this one. So you'll see me kind of starting in a weird way, drawing her shoulder. I went into that first, you notice. That's because the natural thing to do when I'm drawing a character or inking a character would be to start with the eyes. But eyes are a very delicate thing to draw, especially with ink, especially when you're just grabbing a brush and you don't know how it's going to react, because brushes have a mind of their own, believe me. And also, this was the first inking I did this day. I hadn't been sitting there, inking really slickly, with muscle memory and feeling very natural doing it. This was, my first inking of the day. So at the very beginning of inking a drawing, it's like I have to kind of feel my way into the drawing a little bit, just to kind of get comfortable with the brush. And so normally I would start a drawing by inking the eyes, but in this case I threw down the first lines of ink on her shoulder just to get a feel for the brush I was using, just to make sure it felt comfortable, just to make sure the bristles were responding the right way and I was getting the kind of lines I wanted. It's just a safe place to start with something like that, because if I screw up her shoulder, that's very, very easy to fix. She's wearing a black sleeve, so I can cover my mistakes really easy if the line doesn't come out right. But and when I did it, you saw that I was using a kind of an old brush that was a little bit beat up, and gosh, I'm really glad I didn't just jump into inking something really delicate like her eye with that brush. It's good that I tested it out first and got a feel for it. And then once I did and I realized, I need a new brush, grabbed a new one, got comfortable with it, and then went into the eyes and the fingers with those, those skinny little claw fingers. That's another kind of delicate area. And her hair, this kind of thing here where I'm trying to let the ink lines taper a bit to make a little bit of a gradual highlight. This is one of the parts I almost always screw up and then have to fix with whiteout. Although I've done it so many times over the years now that I kind of do it pretty quickly. But see how the ink lines are kind of fading on the ends? It sort of allows that highlight in her hair to look a little more gradual. So you'll see me screw up here in a second. I make a mistake when I ink her forearm. Right here. See that wonky line? Yeah. I remember when I first started learning to draw with ink and use the ink brushes, I did what a lot of young artists do when they first start learning this technique, which is, total fear of screwing up, because, oh my gosh, the India ink is permanent and a brush might be tricky to control and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, sure, there was a big learning curve. I definitely ruined a few really nice pencil drawings. But I'm so glad I kept at it. I love this technique. I mean, I draw with ink almost every single day. It's one of my favorite pleasures in life. I love drawing with a brush. And also, see this with the whiteout? After you've been doing this for a few years, you figure out all kinds of shortcuts to correct mistakes and solve those problems. And they don't even phase you after a while because you just know what you'll do to fix it. I mean, obviously, there are certain mistakes. If you make them, they can ruin the drawing. Like, for example, at the beginning, how I said, I started out inking her shoulder because that was a safe place. If the brush was bad or whatever, if the ink was bad, or if I was just, off my mark, or if I was just being clumsy, uh, you know, uh, anywhere on that black dress is easy to fix because you can just cover it up with more black. But there's certain parts, you know, like I said, like her eyes are a very delicate thing. And if I was, drawing this in the middle of the day after I'd been inking for a few hours, of course I would jump right in and draw her eye first. That's the most natural thing to do. But since, again, this was the first drawing of the day, I wanted to start off someplace a little bit safe just to get a feel for it, find my way into it. And then once I had a feel for it, like right there, look at that. See that line on her boob? That first line that went down was very crookedy, but you find ways to fix it. And now it looks okay, right? So you learn to play with it. I mean, the brushes and the liquid ink are so organic. They are so alive. And because of that, you can get a lot of effects. But look how fast that line went down. See how easily that went down? It's a weird thing, you get a feel for it, and certain lines go down really fast, and then other parts you have to be very careful with. But the ink is so alive, and it has such an energy all its own, and it has a mind of its own, and sometimes it just does certain things that you didn't think it was going to do, or that you weren't telling it to do. It just kind of does its own thing, and then I've always said, like, drawing with ink with a brush like this, it's like you're half telling the ink what to do, and you're half responding to whatever it decides to do. Yeah, so, you just kind of learn to play with it. It's like a living thing, It's like working with an animal or something. And you learn to tame it and also learn to take its little natural surprises in stride and respond and without getting freaked out. And it's just fun, man. It's just such a fun way to draw. And I think I kept with the inks partly because all my favorite artists drew with inks, My three big ones being Graham Ingles, Bernie Wrightson, and Jordi Bernet. Those are the guys that I just considered to be, the masters of ink brush drawing. But even like, someone like Bill Watterson, the guy that does Calvin and Hobbes, you look at those comic strips he did, the black and white ones, they're all drawn with ink brush. You can tell by looking at the lines. And the lines are so organic and they're so alive. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that I'm anywhere near that skill level, but because I saw those kinds of guys drawing that way and I loved the quality of their work, you can see right there, I went over the edge of her leg right there with that one line, but don't worry, I'll clean it up. I wanted my lines to look like that. So, darn it, I was going to figure this brush thing out, and I did, and it's so much fun. I love it. And, Batsy is challenging to draw. Pretty girls are always challenging to draw. It's way easier to draw ugly dudes and big, scary, gross monsters. And it's weird, I've been drawing Batsy for so many years. I've got a little bit of a formula with her. And aspects of her are easy to draw, and aspects of her are very tricky to draw. Any part of that black dress or this right here, the back of her hair, the flowing long hair in the back is very easy, very fun to draw. But her delicate features, the delicate parts of her body, her eyes, her lips, the curvature of her legs, things like that. That's where I have to really kind of be careful. And those are the areas where, if you screw that up, it can throw off the whole drawing and not be so easy to fix. And so I have to be careful in those areas, but she's fun to draw. Okay, so another part of drawing with ink is knowing when you need to take a break from a certain drawing. And usually that happens when I get to a point where there's just too many areas of wet ink all over the place, and it's starting to become difficult to strategize where to work next without accidentally smudging something. And so that's why I like to have 2 or 3 drawings going at the same time usually. So when I get to that place, like I'm getting with this one, where there's just too many wet ink areas here, too many danger zones, it's going to be better to just put this one aside, give it time to dry, and focus on something else. Oh, did you see that? It was sped up, so it went by really fast, but I had a little paper towel there where I dabbed at the ink where a little bit too much fell off the brush. Okay, so here's where I switched to a different cover. I'm going to just do one from scratch. This is going to be a Wolf and Batsy together. So the other one's set aside and it's drying a little bit. I'll get back to it again later. Now I'm going to turn my attention to just making something new. I had this new idea for a composition of Wolf and Batsy together. Here you are seeing my standard tried and true formula for a wolf's head structure from this particular angle. That gray blob right there is my good old kneaded eraser. Oh yeah, look at this. I totally screwed up his teeth and redid them. That happens sometimes. And then this is where you can see me getting really careful, like, no. Put in the shapes, define the shapes, then do your cool teeth. Slow down, Brian. Anyway, yeah, so I have some very specific theories on werewolf teeth and vampire teeth and how I think they should look. Theories I've had in my head since, like, the 8th grade. I've been drawing monsters my whole life. Oh yeah, drool. You gotta have drool, right? Wolf's always gotta have some drool. So here I go. Now, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Batsy is way trickier to draw than Wolf. And I've got this image in my head how I kind of want to put them together, but look at me, completely erasing her and starting over. Wolf I can knock out pretty quick, but Batsy takes a few tries to get her right. Especially, again, in this case, I'm still not comfortable drawing with the camera on. And, I've got it clipped to my desk, so it's kind of in my way a little bit too as I'm working here, so that's not helping. So I think I take a couple of different attempts getting her face just right. But here you can see how I kind of lay in the basic structure. I need to do a bigger, more elaborate drawing of Wolf and Batsy on one of these videos. Because these little sketch covers, they're cool and everything and they're fun, but they're quickies in a way, I need to do a more involved, like big 11x17 illustration for one of these videos so you can really see how I do it and try to get it all on there from beginning to end from scratch, so you can really see the process. Because, these things, they're called sketch covers for a reason. This is sketching. This isn't serious, focused, time-consuming drawing. Really, this is sketching. Anyway, so while you're watching me do this, what else can I talk about? Oh yeah, so on the last video I did, I got some comments where some people were saying they appreciated me mentioning the music that I had going in my headphones that I was listening to while I was drawing to kind of set the mood. While I was working on this cover, boy, there's a weird camera distortion because of the angle. I gotta say, the iPhone really has some weird distortion on it just by tilting the camera slightly because it's not lined up with the exact same angle as the drawing board. It's making the upper part of her body look way too big and the lower part of her body look way too small, but it was proportionate. It's just the camera angle, I think, is giving me some crazy perspective or something. Hopefully you'll see it a little more straight in a little bit here. Anyway, yeah, so music. So when I was working on this one, I was listening to a band, not a really new band. They've been out for a few years, but they're kind of new to me because I only discovered them just, I think, last year. It's a band that I really like called She Passed Away. German band. And the names of their albums and songs are all in German, so I'll probably screw up the pronunciation. But while I was drawing this image, I was listening to their album Narin Jolenslik. I love that album, and it's got some really cool songs on it. They're very 80s sounding, but they got a great electronic synth vibe. But they sound like early 80s in a way. They got a song on there I love called Uzakta, which starts out with these kind of goofy, kind of clunky drum sounds, but then once it gets into it, it sounds really cool. And it reminds me almost of something that you would have heard on like The Cure, 17 Seconds, you know? They have another song I love called Catharsis, which is probably their most popular song. That's the one I've heard pop up a lot. That one's a real crowd pleaser, real fun song. So maybe listen to that one first. Probably a better gateway into their music than Uzakata, but I love those two especially, both of those songs. But that whole album's cool, so check it out. Anyway, that's what I was listening to when I was drawing these sketch covers. And, the video ended. I was having too much fun looking at my music list over here instead of paying attention to the video. Well, I guess I'll sign off now. Thanks for watching. Leave me some comments and let me know what you think of these. And if you guys like them, I'll make some more. Talk to you later. Bye.